Welcome back, everybody. I decided to do a new segment on my channel called Cold Cases and Colorings, and today we have this lovely picture of a you blinking suck with a little vacuum cleaner on it. Yes, isn't that delightful? All right, so let's, without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? Have you heard of the cold case of Maria Ridulph? She was 7 when she was kidnapped from a street corner on December 3rd, 1957. Maria was the pretty one, graceful at 7, with big brown eyes that shined with warmth and intelligence. And Kathy, who was a year older, felt honored to be her friend. They lived a few doors away from each other on a side street called Archie Place. It was their whole world in 1957, a time when children played hide and seek outside instead of watching television. People didn't lock their doors in this Midwestern farm town because everyone knew everyone else. Sycamore and its 7,000 souls left safe on the morning of December 3rd, 1957, but that feeling wouldn't last. That first Tuesday on December started like any other for Maria and Kathy Sigeman, with a short walk across the street to Western Elementary School. It was cold, with a promise of snow in the air. After school, they went to Maria's house to cut out paper snowflakes. A few blocks away, a man in an overcoat spotted 2 girls walking along State Street by the police library and tried to strike up a conversation. It was 14:15 p.m. The girls felt uneasy, so they ducked into a restaurant. When they emerged, the man was gone, but he left something disturbing behind. Scattered on the sidewalk was a half of a dozen photographs of nude women. At the intersection of Center Cross Street and Archie Place, Maria and Kathy made plans to play there after dinner. It was a favorite spot they hadn't been to since summer. At 5 p.m., Kathy went home. Maria's family gathered around the table for her favorite supper: rabbit, carrots, potatoes, and milk. She finished off 2 rabbit legs, but barely touched her vegetables. She pleaded to go back outside as the first flurries of the season started to swirl in the midnight sky. Excited, she called Kathy on the phone. "I can go outside tonight. Can you?" Kathy lived in a white cottage at the end of a long driveway, and her family was the first on the block to own a clothes dryer. Her freshly laundered jeans still felt warm as she met Maria at mid-block, and they raced in the dark to the massive elm tree on the corner. They were playing duck the cars, scurrying back and forth between the trees and the street pole, trying to avoid the headlights from oncoming cars. When a good-looking young man approached, Kathy remembers his narrow face, big teeth, and high, thin voice. She'd never seen him before. "Hello, little girls," he said. "Are you having fun?" He asked whether they wanted piggyback rides and gave his name as Johnny. He told Kathy and Maria that he was 24 and wasn't married. "Do you like dollies?" The girls nodded. By the time these events were recalled in a Sycamore courtroom 55 years later, memories had faded and many details noted in police and FBI reports were lost to time. But nobody could forget the piggyback ride. That was how Johnny won Maria over. Down he trotted 20 feet to the south along Center Cross Street and back again. Maria giggled with glee on his shoulders. When it was over, she ran to her house 3 doors away at 616 Archie Place to fetch a doll for the next piggyback ride. Kathy waited on the sidewalk with Johnny. He asked whether she wanted to take a walk around the block or go to a trip in a truck or car, but no, she told him. He told her she was pretty, but sensed it was Maria he liked more. Maria burst into her house to find her father, Michael, in the living room watching a Western. Her mother, Frances, was reading a newspaper. Maria picked out a favorite doll from the toys piled by the door, but her mother suggested she take an older rubber doll out into the snow instead. Kathy felt a chill as Maria joined them on the sidewalk. Now it was Kathy's turn to run home to fetch her mittens. She asked Maria to come along, but she didn't want to go. When Kathy returned a few minutes later, Maria and Johnny were gone. The kidnapping and murder of Maria Ridulph. It required family members to turn against one of their own and haunted a small town for 55 years. Even now, the case may not be over. Maria was taken in a more innocent time, decades before Amber Alerts and photos of missing children on milk cartons became part of the cultural landscape. In 1957, the kidnapping of a little girl shattered everyone's sense of safety. Reports flocked to Sycamore from the big city papers in Chicago and New York. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover demanded daily updates from his men and sent teletypes with detailed instructions. President Dwight D. Eisenhower followed the case, but the weeks of urgent activity were followed by half a century of silence. In the Ridulph case, there was no DNA, but it is difficult to reconstruct the past in a courtroom. People die, memories fade, and facts can become distorted. Most of the physical evidence in this case was lost or destroyed over the years, including Maria's doll. Prosecutors relied heavily on evidence that in the past has often proven unreliable. In the Ridulph case, 3 inmates locked up with the suspect told different stories about how he described killing Maria, by dropping her on her head or by suffocating or strangling her while trying to silence her cries. Yet a forensic pathologist testified Maria was stabbed. The eyewitness, whose testimony was crucial in winning a conviction, was a child when she saw the kidnapper for just a few moments. More than half a century passed before she picked him out in a photo lineup. She is certain she chose the right man, but others question whether she picked up cues from the investigators and tried to please them with her choice. They wonder whether the photo itself could have prejudiced her. Kathy ran up and down Archie Place, calling her best friend's name. Kathy rushed up to the side door at the Ridulph's house. Chuck and Randy set out down Archie Place, all the way to the corner of the Fair Street by the elementary school. The boys saw a police car go by and realized too late that they should have stopped it. They headed back home. By then, Kathy had told her mother about the nice man who called himself Johnny. More details emerged as Maria's mother, Frances, and Kathy's mother, Flora, exchanged several frantic calls. Maria's father was reluctant to summon police because he didn't want to be embarrassed if she had just wandered off. About a year earlier, Maria had strayed several blocks away to Elmwood Elementary while playing. She turned up just as a search party organized. But Frances Ridulph let worry overrule her husband. She drove to the Sycamore police station to report her daughter missing. That evening, men pounded on the door of 227 Center Cross Street, the home of Ralph and Eileen Tizier. Ralph ran the hardware store, and the men wanted him to open up, as they could gather up flashlights and lanterns to use as their search. Foul play was suspected, but there were no clues. When she vanished, the newspaper said Maria was wearing a brown 3/4 length coat, black corduroy slacks, brown socks, and freshly polished sandal shoes. The man who called himself Johnny, police said, wore a striped sweater of blue, yellow, and green. He had long blonde hair that curled in the front and flopped onto his forehead. As the days passed, Maria's mother pleaded with the kidnapper for her daughter's safe return. Kathy Sigmund, her friend, found herself under a 24-hour police guard. The family doctor checked her for signs of sexual molestation. The newspapers ran a picture of Kathy showing off her mittens and pointed to the corner where Maria was snatched. There was no ransom note, no phone call from the kidnapper. Authorities believe Maria's abduction had a twisted motive. He was a sexual predator. After a week of fruitless searching, authorities alerted residents to look out for scavengers. It is entirely possible that her body has been discarded in a field or a nearby farm. Be alert to large gatherings of buzzards and crows, and if a body is located, make sure nothing is touched. Maria was found in the spring, 120 miles from home. A man searching for morel mushrooms found her skeleton tucked under a fallen tree on Roy Cahill's farm off US 20 outside Woodbine, not far from the Iowa border. Birds and animals had fed on her corpse, clad only in a black and white checkered shirt, an undershirt, and brown socks. Neither the autopsy nor the inquest determined a cause of death, beyond suspected foul play. Maria was laid to rest in a small white casket. The disappearance and death of her best friend never left Kathy. Nothing could fill the space where Maria once was. The games, the laughter, the shared secrets. She was left with survivor's guilt and the social stigma of being connected to a notorious crime. Maria's brother, Chuck Ridulph, declined to be interviewed. Kathy says her own parents were so overprotective, she felt like a prisoner. As a mother, she went the other way, letting her kids make their own decisions and their own mistakes. The couple now lives in St. Charles, about a half-hour drive from Sycamore. No matter where they went, Kathy looked back over her shoulder. Johnny was still out there. Okay, my friends, that is the end of the story, unfortunately. The killer was never found. My storytelling skills are quite exquisite, I understand. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye!